KL Publications presents I'm a Vibe, Vibrational Intelligent Bright Energy. In the heart of an urban jungle, where towering buildings rose like still trees and the streets buzzed with the hum of endless movement, Marshawn found himself walking along a cracked sidewalk. The city was a blend of chaos and beauty, filled with flashing lights, loud conversations, and the constant drone of traffic. It was his home, a place where survival wasn't just about making ends meet, but about holding on to something much deeper, his sense of self. Marshawn wasn't a stranger to the grind. From his early years, he had been groomed to follow traditions, expectations set by family, religion, and society. Marshawn had done it all. He bent to fit in the mold. He had submitted to the rules, followed the paths others laid out for him. Yet, here he was, still searching for a peace that seemed forever out of reach. It started in religion. Marshawn thought as he walked, the echoes of his steps mixing with the street sounds. I learned all the traditions, fulfilled the missions, made all the sacrifices, but where was the peace? Where was the forgiveness? The weight of it had become unbearable. The more he tried to fit into the world's definition of success and goodness, the more disillusioned he felt. Marshawn had come to realize that he could never truly find what he was looking for by following someone else's blueprint. He didn't need to be validated by a system designed to keep people trapped. He had something inside of him that no one could take away. His vibe, his inner magic. I'm ready to pack up my bags, he murmured, a half smile on his lips. I'm alive, and I'm here to monitor the flow. I'm bringing the magic. They can keep their empty promises and their superficial goals. I'm a vibe. Marshawn had always been different, even as a child. There was something about him that stood out, a quiet intensity, a sense of purpose that others couldn't quite understand. They would either be drawn to it or repelled by it. As he grew older, he realized that his uniqueness was his power. He didn't need to change to fit in. He didn't need to apologize for being himself. I've been like this all of my life, he thought, and I'm not changing now. The city seemed to resonate with his thoughts. He looked around at the faces passing by, some of them worn down by the grind, others moving with the quick determination of those chasing something just out of reach. Marshawn could see it all, the endless search for validation, the hunger for success, the desire for more. But he had learned something crucial in his journey. It wasn't about what you can acquire. It was about what you carried within. I'm a vibe, Marshawn whispered again, this time louder, feeling the words roll off his tongue like an affirmation. He had learned to interpret the world as it came to him, without fear or hesitation. He wasn't running from anything anymore. He didn't need to. People ran from him because they couldn't handle his truth. They couldn't handle the depth of his energy. When they needed knowledge, they hunt for me, Marshawn mused, thinking about the times friends and strangers alike had sought his wisdom. He had become a guide in his community, not because he wanted to be, but because people recognized his authenticity. He had been doing this for so long, it was second nature to him. The struggles, the victories, the constant fight to stay grounded, it had all become part of his rhythm, his flow. But there was more to Marshawn than just wisdom. He had a fire, passion that couldn't be contained. The flow is so COVID, he thought, with a chuckle, so contagious that no one can compete with it. He knew people doubted him. They said he didn't have it anymore, called him outdated, a dinosaur. But Marshawn knew better. You're about to hear me roar, he said to himself, imagining the power of his voice cutting through the noise, like a Hemi car, rapping like an avatar, something they'd never seen before. And that's what it was. Marshawn was a force, an energy that you could feel before he even spoke. People didn't always understand it, and sometimes that scared them. They were afraid of acknowledging the power inside themselves, so they chose to ignore it in him. It's not my job to fix them, Marshawn reminded himself. I'm not their therapist, but the truth is right here in me, and I'll protect it with everything I have. He had spent years unlocking the code to his own emotional intelligence, discovering the frequencies that kept him in balance. He knew better now, and when you know better, you do better. The lies society told, the illusions people bought into, it all became noise to him. He wasn't interested in that anymore. His focus was on protecting his inner richness, the essence of who he was from the forces trying to strip it away. Systematically, they tried to break us, he thought, his pace quickening as he navigated the bustling streets. But they can't get to me. I know who I am. I'm that guy. Marshawn had learned to speak with urgency, not just to the world, but to himself. The streets were unforgiving, but they had also been his greatest teacher. He had learned to survive, not by chasing what was outside of him, but by nurturing what was within. The answers was always inside, and it was in himself that he had learned to confide. As he turned the corner, the cityscape opened up before him, a sprawling testament to both struggle and resilience. Skyscrapers loomed overhead, casting long shadows, while street vendors, children, and magicians filled the sidewalks with life. Marshawn felt the vibrancy of it all, the pulse of the city aligning with his own. I'm a vibe, he repeated louder this time, feeling the words ripple through him. I've been like this my whole life, and I'm gonna live it unapologetically. He didn't need anyone's approval. He didn't need the world to understand him. What mattered was that he understood himself. He knew his truth, and that truth was his power. The world around him could shift, people could go and come, but Marshawn was unmovable in his self-awareness. You don't have to like me, he thought, recalling the faces of those who had tried to mold him into something he wasn't, but you will respect me. The city continued its ceaseless rhythm, but Marshawn moved to his own beat. He had mastered the art of survival, not through wealth or fame, but through something much more valuable, inner peace. He had built his life on a foundation of self-reliance, understanding that true wealth came from knowing who you were and refusing to compromise that for anyone or anything. As the day wore on, Marshawn found himself standing in front of a group of young men at the corner store. They were lost, trying to figure out the same thing he had once struggled with. They were chasing the material, believing that if they just had enough money, enough respect, they'll be whole. You're looking in the wrong place, Marshawn said, stepping forward, his presence commanding attention. You think the answers are out there, in the streets, in the money, in the fame. But the truth is inside. That's where the real wealth is. They looked at him confused but intrigued. Marshawn didn't push. He didn't need to. The seed had been planted. I'm a vibe, he said one last time before walking away, leaving the young men to ponder his words. Marshawn knew that not everyone would understand his message right away, but that didn't matter. He was living proof that inner richness was the key to surviving and thriving in a world that constantly tried to strip you of your essence. As long as he stayed true to himself, he would always be that vibe, the one they couldn't touch, couldn't break, and couldn't forget. Because in the end, Marshawn had learned the greatest lesson of all. The most valuable thing you can possess isn't something you can see or touch. It's something you feel deep inside, the truth of who you are. And once you found that, you'll never let it go. I'm a vibe, Marshawn thought, smiling as he disappeared into the city, his heart as rich as the world around him. And that's all he needed to be. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe.